My name is Prajwal. I happen to be an entrepreneur working out of Nepal. I primarily work alongside the B2B global sales and marketing space. I had to really work on myself, build a business from scratch, and currently I'm in the process of building a second one. I'm just trying to share a couple of things that I have learned along the way. And these are not have all be all meaning यति नै गर्यो भने चाहिँ you'll be rock stars भन्ने पनि हैन. These are just a couple of things that I would recommend. You actually have to cultivate your mindset, because whatever the way you think is already getting you to where you are. You have to become a different person that thinks in a different way to achieve things that you have not achieved yet. So, you really have to cultivate. And I just wanted to start with the meaning of cultivate, right? It's basically to nurture and to help to grow. And you have to help grow your own mindset, and no one is coming for your rescue. All I'll be doing is I'll be sharing what I have learned so far and what has worked for me. So it doesn't necessarily mean, it has to work for you or something. One might work more or less. Just take it as something that can help you and pick and choose what you think you are more inclined toward. One of the things that I used to do earlier was I used to think, so the name of my company is Business Brainz. I used to think, oh, I am Business Brainz. Business Brainz is me. And I used to be very emotional about it. And because of that, certain decisions that probably would have done good for business, I might not have taken, because I used to have that sense of self attached with the company. Business Brainz, or my company, is something else. It's an entity, it's a separate entity that I am running or I am managing. My job is to make sure that this entity grows, and all the decisions I take is on behalf, or whatever, all my decisions need to do justice to this particular entity that I am running. Right. That really helped, but that came after years and years of making mistakes and struggles, and making wrong decisions everything. So first of all, try to detach yourself from your business. Don't derive all your identity out of your own business. That's why, if you noticed, in my intro, I just had my name. I didn't have my title and the name of the company and everything. Execution, execution, and execution. A bad idea executed still goes a long way than a great idea written on a paper, right? You might have a great idea, great presentation that you have on a PowerPoint, एकदम leather binding गरेको नोटबुकमा लेखेर राख्यो रे हैन, right? But that doesn't really take you anywhere, right? You have to, even if it is the smallest of idea, like let's say you have a small business idea or something, try it, test it. अनि कसैलाई गएर दाइ मेरो यस्तो आइडिया छ, यो बिक्छ होला भनेर हैन, go and actually try to figure something out and try to actually sell it. Just try to execute in the smallest possible manner. Even if it is a bad idea, if you execute it, you will still learn something out of it, rather than just a great idea maybe sitting on paper. There was a recent interview that I watched, I forgot the name, but then humans technically cannot differentiate a good idea from a bad idea at an idea stage. So it's only after it is executed that it turns out, was it a good idea or not a good idea. I came across this lady called Marie Forleo in one of the podcasts that I was listening to, and then she has also written a book, and it's called Everything is Figure Outable. Definitely recommend you guys to read that book. I've listened to a couple of podcasts and everything where she has spoken. She didn't have she came from a background that didn't necessarily ensure that she would succeed in everything, and she is one of the most popular, and her fan following, I think, is definitely into the millions for sure. Now, what I'm trying to say is, you try something, you learn something out of it, and then you figure things out, right? If it's a business idea, if it is, for you to cultivate a business mindset, right? What does a business person do? Let's take Mr. Vinod Chaudhary and strip all the business empire out of him and just pick him and drop him in, let's say, Africa, right? In 10 years time, I will guarantee he will build another business empire there. He will figure things out. Why? Because he has tried a lot, he's learned a lot, he's figured a lot of things out. And that's how it applies with any business, right? If you look at any of the businesses, they have tried this, they have pivot gare bhancha, yesto gare bhancha. They start with one product, they end up with another product that actually gets popular. They start with one service, and the other service that they never thought that actually picks up and that gives a lot of revenue and everything. So, it all depends upon how you often or how much you try new things, you learn from that, you figure things out, and you just make it happen, right? So everything's figure outable, guys. If you guys want to read that book, definitely go for it. This is, I think, by far the most important element. In Nepal, what I have seen in practice is learning stops when you have a degree, whereas learning should start after you graduate. That's it cannot get simpler than that. If you know the amount of books that Bill Gates reads, you will be crazy. There's a documentary inside Bill's brain or inside Bill's head. I forgot. It's on Netflix. If you guys have watched, or if you haven't, please go and watch. He travels with like this pile of books every time he travels, and he reads like crazy. Warren Buffett reads like crazy, meaning they are continuously learning and learning and learning. They don't necessarily have to, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, they might have already made the money that they had to for generation. But they continue to learn. If you had to work for one entire year for free, basically, you have to go work with one person for free. Who would you work for, or who would you work with? And then find out about that person. Whatever books that person reads, read that book. Whatever that guy eats, eat it. Whatever exercise he does, do it. Learn from that person. A couple of years, 5, 6 years, 7 years back, any blog, any news post, anything that had success on its headline, or what do successful people do, morning routines of successful people, I used to read it all. And then I realized, they focus on fitness, they focus on mental health, they focus on meditation, they read a lot, they do this, they learn. And I started implementing one by one. So I have a very, very specific morning routine now. I wake up at 5, I go for my run, I come back, I meditate, I read. And by the time my kids are up, I have done a major part of my day. And that came by learning from people, learning from books, learning from everything, right? And now we're in a way better place. YouTube, which is an enormous source of information if you just go for the right content. There are a lot of podcasts. I think Clubhouse is really emerging. You can go choose your community, continue to engage and network with people. There are books. You can just identify people you want to be like. I am sure either they're on Instagram or they are on Twitter or whatever. They keep on sharing and everything, right? So just continue to learn. I think that will help you continue to cultivate a business mindset. Always focus on progress, not perfection. I am not perfect. I'm still building, I'm still learning, but I am better off than I was in 2020, than I was in 2018, then in 2015, and so forth. When I graduated business school, I had certain level of arrogance probably, but I knew nothing. Right? It's what I have. It's all that I have failed and I've learned from in the past, and everything that now I can tell you. Focus on progress. Always focus on progress. Just continue to try one small thing, learn from it, continue to get better at it. Because if you just chase perfection, that's not going to help. There was this professor who came into the class, or there was an experiment done. I do not know. But then clearly they divided a class into two, and one half of the class were asked to make as many pots as possible. The other group was asked to come up with one pot, but that had to be the perfect pot. And then they were sent away for 30 days or something. I don't remember, to be very honest. But then once they came back, the guys who were asked to create many pots, they started tinkering with pots. They started making this pot, that pot. They spoiled a lot of pots. And then they started making better pots. And then they were able to create a variety of very, very good pots. So that group were able to bring more than 10, 20, 30 pots that were way better than that one pot that the perfect group had to make, because that group focused on creating one perfect pot and the other group focused on, how does it matter, we just need to make so many, let's continue to make pots and learn from them. Invest in yourself and continue to learn. This is not going to happen overnight. It will take time, and you just have to be patient. Well, I would say start first, meaning if you have zero business skills but you have a business idea, you want to do business, start with what you want to do. I would say start with some level of clarity. If you and start with learning. Let's say if you want to, let's say, have your interest is in the food business, then you start learning about food, learning about chefs, learning about, if you want to start a pizza corner in Pokhara, then start researching about pizza, learn anything and everything. We are in a time that literally you can learn more than anyone else just by sitting at a desk. If you spend another 3 months researching about pizzas, imagine the wealth of knowledge that you will have about pizzas. Just start learning and just start basically, Nepali, we score very high on reluctance. So we kind of think, and we find all the reasons why not to. We just basically need to find one reason why to. And let's say in 3 months' time, you realize that, oh, okay, pizza doesn't really interest me. Or, pizza was not the thing that you really wanted to. You now want to research about momos because momo sells more in Pokhara and not pizzas. Whatever, but you just need to get out of the idea only and everything, and then get started. And once you start giving it the size and shape of a business is when you will actually start cultivating the business mindset, right? What works, what doesn't work. Now we're in a time where if you have an idea, someone somewhere in the world probably has already done it. Very rare would it be that someone, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a unique idea, but if you have a business idea, just go and research about how have people started with their business ideas. There is a very interesting book called The Lean Startup by Eric Rice. He says, go and test it. So if you have an idea and where to start, try to test that idea. And testing idea is not by asking people, hey, I have this idea, do you think it will work? Because most often people will tell you it will not work, and it's not that people are telling you that it is that they are telling themselves that it'll not work. You have to make it work. No idea works by itself. And don't just go after, we are very good at taking examples of Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg, and they have built empires. But look at the smallest of examples. There might be a restaurant next door who started from a small outlet that grew his restaurant. And just try and test. So if you have an idea, how do you start? I would say test it in the smallest possible manner and still test it, and you will still learn from it. Another thing that I learned from Richard Branson is whenever he started, when he started his aviation business and everything, he first went to cap the downside. So what's the worst that can go? And then he capped it, like he had an agreement that if the aviation didn't work, there were people who will buy back the plane. So he knew it cannot go beyond, on the downside, it cannot go beyond this number. And then he went ahead and started his aviation. Let's say, if you want to start a mobile accessory business, right? What's the worst that can go? Go buy 2,000 and sell it to your friends and family, right? At a profit. You buy for 1,000 and then you have a stock for 300, and from 700 worth of stock, you've made probably 1,400. You're still better off. You have seen it works, right? Worst case, you would have lost $1,000, right? We just amplify a lot of things in our head. Just go and test it. What's the lowest possible effort that, meaning what's the lowest possible risk that you can take and still test it? That would be the most helpful to get started from an idea stage. Yeah, I used to be a whiner. Meaning I used to be someone who complained about each and everything that was outside of me. When I was, so I really grew once I started my own business because I had to grow and I didn't have a choice, because for me to become someone who would succeed at business, I had to do what a person does to who succeeds at business, right? And complaining couldn't help. Otherwise, when I was at a job and everything, I used to, so a certain project didn't go well. I used to say, oh, the sources were not this, oh, or this wasn't working, computer wasn't working, the time wasn't enough. The truth was, I wasn't working. When I didn't get a promotion at the end of the year, I used to say, oh, the manager sucks. He doesn't even know how to manage. And, projects that came were too bad. When I was giving an exam, I would even say the question was wrong. Right? Sometimes it might be, right? But what I didn't understand or realize was that the world's not fair. Accept it. Is there something that I can do about it? Maybe not, right? Or maybe yes. So I would advise myself, only focus on things that you can change and get at it and get started, right? But otherwise, just complaining, sitting at a tea shop and then just doing golf and complaining 365 days does not move the needle forward. And what I failed to recognize was that I didn't see the flaws in me myself, right? Of course, if I didn't get a promotion, someone else did, I didn't work my best, right? Or I didn't work hard enough, or I should have and could have worked more than I did, or that I didn't do what I should have done, or I didn't set the right expectations with my manager in the very beginning, right? Or I didn't check with my manager at the middle. So yeah, and those things were in my control, right? So I would say, just focus on things that are in your control and work on yourself, invest in yourself, learn new things, learn skills.